Hello and welcome to the C3 Method Patreon weekly Q&A with your host Robert Polenic. Our goal is to educate you on everything health and fitness related with a clear, concise, and customized approach. We want you to know what you need to know and how to apply it in a way that fits you best. This is the Patreon weekly Q&A for the week of June 30th. If you would like to be able to submit questions for this Q&A, you can join our Patreon service. You can go to patreon.com/C3 method. The 3 is spelled out T-H-R-E-E, so C-T-H-R-E-E method. You can find us there. You can also just get a link through our website, which is c3method.com. You can also shoot me an email at c3method@gmail.com. Hopefully there's a million and one ways you can reach out if you need to. And then also as part of the Patreon service, we have training programs that are created for you, so you can just follow what's written. We have training templates where you can kind of plug and play whatever exercises you want, but at least you know there's a good format behind it. And then we have nutrition education and a whole bunch of other stuff. The benefit is, my goal of it was, I do one-on-one coaching as the primary service for the business. However, sometimes people, they wanted to be able to ask questions, but they kind of maybe didn't want to pay the full amount for the one-on-one service, or it was just not the right time for whatever condition. There were ways and reasons why people might not want to do the one-on-one. They couldn't commit to that. And they still wanted good quality programming. They still wanted good quality education. So I thought this might be a good way to do it. We're still finding out. There are people signed up on Patreon. Everybody seems to be happy. So it's just continuing to grow. If you have any questions about the service at all, like I said, just reach out however you can. Ask any questions, and I'll be happy to ensure that whatever you would want from the service, that we can find you a way to get it. Cool. Okay, we're going to get into this week's questions. The first question we have: what would be your top 3 supplement recommendations for each category? Fat loss, hypertrophy, strength, endurance. Woo. Okay, there's ones that I would recommend regardless of the category. Would be like a multivitamin. Assuming your goal is fat loss, hypertrophy, strength, endurance, I do have the assumption that you're eating in some structured way to work towards those goals. If you're eating in a structured way, it might limit your food variety. And if you limit your food variety, a multivitamin would be very helpful. Then, along with a multivitamin, you can do digestive enzymes just to make sure that what you're eating gets processed as best as possible. That can help a lot with just quality of digestion. Then you have small things like vitamin D3, I think is really helpful because a lot of people don't get the adequate sun exposure that they should. Vitamin D3 has a lot of connections with proper like healthy hormone production. Fighting depression is even like correlated with vitamin D3 levels. So I think that's really good. Plus it's really cheap, which is great. From there, you have creatine. Creatine is a good one. There's a lot of studies coming out saying that it has cognitive benefits. Let alone the performance-based components. Like we use like creatine phosphate as a short burst energy. If you are not eating a lot of meat, you're not eating a lot of protein sources, you might be low in creatine, and then that might cause you to not optimize your muscle contraction performance. So creatine can help for that. There you go. It's also really cheap too. So creatine monohydrate is very cheap. And it's something you could throw in. You can take in like 5 grams a day, and it can have some benefits as well. So there's at least some lists there. There's more like fish oil and like healthy omega-3 fats. There's other things, but if we look at individual categories before I continue to ramble too much, fat loss. If it's somebody specific fat loss and maybe they were already taking the base of supplements, you could do fat burners. That might be something that motivates you. If you are struggling to feel excited and motivated with a diet, you could take a fat burner for a period of time. It's really just high caffeine and a little bit of a diuretic, but you can do it, and it can help kind of motivate you, give you the energy, give you extra discipline and willpower to stick to your diet. So that would be something like fat loss based. In fat loss, I would definitely recommend the multivitamin and the digestive enzyme because you're probably eating in a caloric deficit, which means you're eating limited amounts of foods and probably, again, limited variety. So those would be good recommendations as well. There you go. Hypertrophy, supplement wise, maybe just a protein powder. Make sure you get enough protein in. You can get whey protein for intra and post workout, and then mix it with whole foods to slow down the rate of the digestion of the whey protein for like adding protein to your meals. So, for example, one of my clients has Fruity Pebbles and almond milk as a snack, and they'll mix in a scoop of vanilla protein powder into the almond milk, and that at least boosts a little bit of protein for them. So that's something fun where you can just add protein powder to certain foods. Maybe you do overnight oats or a shake midday where you maybe mix in some peanut butter and some other things. If you're mixing the whey with whole food sources, that's going to slow the rate of digestion of the whey down, and which is typically good if you're using it as like a meal addition to get better protein in. There you go. And then hypertrophy, I would say that's definitely along with strength, which is the next one you listed, is creatine. For the muscular contraction performance, and that can help. Then strength, like I would say, probably the creatine. There's not really a ton of supplements if we're talking about like legal ones that are going to have like a significant performance increase. Maybe recovery. We could look at recovery, so you can supplement with L-glutamine, and that would be for hypertrophy and strength. You can supplement with L-glutamine post-workout or like before bed, and that can help with increasing muscle recovery. Maybe a joint supplement if you're lifting really heavy things, or if you're doing hypertrophy and you have high volume training. Joint supplement can help. One of my favorite ones is from Universal Nutrition. Their animal line of products. They have Animal Flex. It's really well dosed. It's actually what I have my mom take. So that's maybe one to consider as a joint supplement. And then endurance, probably electrolytes. Make sure you have electrolytes, maybe some vitamin B complex before working out, vitamin C to work to keep your immune system up. So those might be some things to think of for endurance athletes. Awesome. So I think that was helpful. What is your opinion on using GLP-1s for fat loss? Do you have any current clients using it? Yes, I've helped. That's been enormous amount of growth in clients using GLP-1s in the last couple of years. So GLP-1s, you're looking at Ozempic, Mounjaro, retatrutide is like a newer one. So essentially, they're helping slow digestion and manage insulin to help a person be in a caloric deficit and not get nauseous from that and not have super intense cravings. That would be a way to kind of summarize that. They're definitely helpful, absolutely. If a person's issue is overeating. Where GLP-1s are not helpful is if a person's issue is undereating or inconsistent eating. The GLP-1s really aren't going to help that. They're actually going to exacerbate the issue and make things worse, which is more of the clients I'm currently working with is they were taking a GLP-1 and they weren't getting the results they wanted. And they were actually having complications and trying to figure out, what the hell's going on. I thought I just took this, I took this shot and everything worked out the way I wanted. I could continue doing what I normally do and I would just lose weight. And it's like, nope, unfortunately, that doesn't work. So most people are overweight from inconsistent eating, meaning typically they undereat during the day, they overeat at night. And what that does is it actually promotes that their body replaces and maintains body fat. Body fat is stored energy to protect our organs when our body feels like maybe it doesn't have enough energy coming in from our diet. It will then say, oh man, if I have moments of surplus, let me save that for those moments when I didn't feel like I had enough. If we can eat more evenly throughout the day, better match our activity, eat more when we move more, eat less when you move less. Doesn't mean volume, just more calorically dense foods when you move more, less calorically dense foods when you move less. So the volume doesn't have to be high or low. But if we match our activity level better, we reduce the body's desire to replace body fat. so we can promote fat loss, and the body doesn't work so hard to put it right back on. And that's essentially what I'm helping people do, is how to manage GLP-1s. Take whatever dose you need so that way you could be at the proper calories you need for the deficit that you need, and not have super intense cravings. For some people, they don't need any GLP-1 because if they have a right deficit and they're timing things right, they'll notice they're kind of sort of hungry by their next meal, but there's not this super intense craving. Where people usually have intense cravings is because they undereat during the day, then they get intense cravings and they end up overeating at night. A GLP-1 isn't going to really fix that because they're still not going to be hungry enough during the day. They're maybe now not going to have such intense cravings, but they're still going to eat some food at night. And then what happens is if they don't overeat at night, they're eating just barely enough, but then they're still undereating during the day. Over time, their body's getting less and less and less of what it needs. That does create initial fat loss, but that also creates under recovery for joint stress, muscle stress. So their muscles get really tight, their body gets kind of achy. They're going to usually have a lot of digestive problems because they're dehydrated. So they're going to have constipation and a lot of other issues. And things just get kind of worse the longer that goes. So the idea of GLP-1s is to use them minimally, and typically they're really mostly only helpful for people who are overweight from overeating. So I'm a fan of them when they're used in the right way, but unfortunately I've seen them like prescribed by a lot of physicians who don't understand nutrition properly. So they're just giving these people these drugs, but then not telling them how to actually manage them, or if they're right for the person they just gave them to. So that's my main goal with clients, is to just help them learn how to use a GLP-1 correctly if they actually even need it. Then we have next question. What is the difference between using a barbell versus a safety squat bar versus a camber squat bar for squats? That's a lot of bars and squats in that word. So what is the difference between using a barbell versus a safety squat bar versus a camber bar? Okay, so essentially a barbell would be kind of the in-between of these three options. A safety squat bar, if you don't know what that is, you can pause the podcast or the video, whatever you're watching or listening to this on, and then just do a quick little Google search. But it's a bar that has like basically the shoulder pads, and it keeps the bar higher on your upper back. So it's like an ultra high bar squat. What that does is it elongates the fulcrum, like the distance between your hip and the bar, and that then creates more pressure on your thoracic spine to hold your upper body in proper position. Since we increase the pressure on the thoracic spine, the body wants to keep your torso more upright, so it's going to push its knees forward more in your squats. You're going to have more quad dominant squatting, specifically the quadricep connections down at the knee, and you're going to feel thoracic pressure. So a safety squat bar is a very quad dominant squat, and it will strengthen your thoracic spine over time, assuming you're not pushing up on the handles, which negates the whole freaking point. So don't do that. Then we'll come back to a barbell in a second. Camber bar is a bar that goes like you'll feel the bar touching your upper back, but then the bar bends like an upside down U. It bends down to your hips and then sticks out, and that's where you put the plates. So the weight load is actually down by your hips, even though the bar is resting on your upper back. This completely counters the way a safety squat bar feels. A camber bar squat reduces thoracic stress and thoracic capacity. Like the thoracic spine can't even do anything to manage the squat very much. So it loads more in the hips. You're going to get a much more balanced loading in the adductors and glutes to the quadriceps. I actually love camber bar squats for overall lower strength development. I think they're one of the best lower body developing movements you can possibly do. So I actually really like a camber bar squat when a client has access to one. I think they're awesome. So camber bar squats, you can think of it as a more overall balanced leg effort, notably increasing the involvement of the adductors and glutes and decreasing the involvement of your spinal erectors and thoracic spine. And then a barbell squat is going to be somewhere in between there. You're going to, depending on your mechanics, depending on your length of your femurs, whether you do high bar, low bar, it's going to be somewhere in between the way a safety squat bar feels and the way a camber bar squat feels. Cool. Next question. How would I know if I should use Olympic lifting shoes for squats? Ooh, this is fun. Okay, if you're squatting in flat shoes, so just normal regular shoes, if you notice at the bottom of your squat that if you were to film yourself from the side, you would see that your heels come off the ground or are significantly depressured, like unpressured against the ground. What that is indicating is that there's maybe a couple mechanical issues, but it could also be that you don't have enough ankle mobility given the limb lengths that you have. So whether somebody has long femur, short femur, long torso, short torso, a combination of those things can influence it. But then also ankle mobility can influence it as well. And then where you're naturally dominant. If you're more quad dominant, your body's going to want to keep your knees more forward, which then deloads the heels. And then you might find that you need Olympic lifting shoes to still have pressure in your heels, which is what we want. However, if you're more posterior chain dominant, you're more like adductors and glute dominant, and you have very thick midsection, strong spinal erectors, you might sit perfectly fine into your heels when you squat, so flat shoes are totally fine for you. In general, the narrower the stance typically indicates that you need Olympic lifting shoes. The wider the stance typically indicates that you're going to need flat shoes. There's a lot of variance in the elements that contribute. So stance width, natural dominance in muscle tissue, limb lengths, high bar versus low bar. So low bar, you're more typically going to be flat shoed. High bar is more typically Olympic lifting shoes. So those are some elements, but that's what I would look at first is I'd film yourself from the side. If you notice your heels coming off the ground, go ahead and give Olympic lifting shoes a try. If that allows the squat to feel more comfortable for you, then it's probably a pretty good choice. You can then develop that over time, see how you do, and then you're never, committed to one thing forever. So if you try that for a while, and then all of a sudden it starts to kind of feel like, this almost feels like I'm pushing my knees too far forward, or it feels like I'm too upright. Over time, maybe you've developed more strength in your adductors and glutes, you can go back to flat shoes, and maybe all of a sudden that now feels more comfortable because you've changed your muscular strength balance. So that would be a quick and easy way, but then hopefully you could hear from my elaboration that there's some other elements in place as well. If anybody watching this video would like one-on-one help, I appreciate your time in watching this video. If you would like to, you can send me a video of you squatting, and please view it from the side or like 3/4 angle from the back, and I can maybe help give you some feedback. You can send that to our Instagram account, which is at C3 Method, and again, 3 is spelled out T-H-R-E-E, so C-T-H-R-E-E Method. You can send it to the Instagram account. I think that's probably the best way to send a video to me. You can do Facebook Messenger if you want, but WhatsApp, that's a good one. So WhatsApp, Instagram, those are usually the methods that clients use. My other clients will load it up to Google Drive and or emails, but for this purpose, if I'm going to be getting them from random people, let's go with Instagram. Okay, next question. It's a little bit of a long one, so be patient with me as I read through this. I've been dieting for 8 weeks. The first 4 weeks, I lost a lot of weight, but in the most recent 4 weeks, the scale hasn't moved much. I know that in the initial loss, a lot of that would have been water weight, and I know that even though the scale isn't moving much now, it doesn't mean I'm not improving, at least aesthetically. It's true. I was wondering how you stayed motivated in a diet when you're in the middle, when the scale isn't moving, but you also don't look the way you want to yet. How do you stay motivated and still cross every T and dot every I when nothing you're doing seems to make a difference? Golly, okay. You're in a depressed area of the diet. 8 weeks in, that is a tough spot because as you said in the question, you're going to get an initial change, especially if your change in diet is significant from what you were doing before. You're going to get a more significant difference. So they would have lost a lot of weight, and that would have been a lot of water weight. And then things kind of what would feel like stall out after that initial water weight drop. So how do you stay motivated is essentially, well, first of all, what you're doing is making a difference. So that can help. Let's correct that. If you're assuming the diet is set up correct. And if you want to make sure of that, on our Patreon service, we have our how to set up a nutrition program video. So if you're a member of our Patreon service, you get a free video that teaches you how to set this up. And then also on YouTube, if you search C3 Method, how to set up a nutrition program. Let's go C3 Method Nutrition Program. Just those three things. C3 Method Nutrition Program. Search that on YouTube and you'll find the video of me teaching. I think it's like an hour, so it's a little bit of a time investment. But I'm teaching personal trainers how to set up nutrition programs for their clients. You can just do that for yourself. It'll ensure that you're in the right calorie range, the right protein, the right timing, all those things. Assuming we have all that correctly, when you're in like the quote unquote middle of a diet, the change you're going to see is going to be relatively small compared to at the beginning of the diet. Now you can modify that by going in deeper into a deficit, assuming you can manage the hunger and low energy kind of impact of that. So if you're only losing, say, a half a pound a week, you could probably push harder and go for a pound a week. But if you're losing a pound to a pound and a half, maybe that's as good as you can kind of manage mentally, emotionally, and control all that. And then you're just going to be patient and wait for that to work. You can also push things more aggressively. People have, lost on average 2 pounds or more a week on diets, but that usually tends to start to be kind of miserable. You're going to notice that. You're going to be hungry. You're going to have low energy. You're going to struggle to have workout energy and performance the harder you push your deficit. But what you do in the middle, even if it's less progress than at the beginning, if it's any progress, it is making a difference. How I stay motivated is just to know that if I want to get where I want to get, this is what I got to do. Like, these are the steps I got to take. So if you're making any amount of progress, that can help motivate you to know, okay, the more I do this, the more I'm going to eventually get somewhere. If you don't see literally any progress, I would double check what your calorie deficit is or what your at work like daily activities are. You need to make sure you're in a deficit that is producing a weight reduction. And the only difference to there would be is if you're brand new to weight training and all of a sudden you're lifting weights. Now you have like more protein than you've ever had before. You might be kind of building muscle and kind of filling out. So you might not see the scale move, but you should probably still feel like tight pants maybe aren't so tight around the waist. If you're trying to build your upper body, like shirts around your shoulders and chest area should get a little tighter. There's usually a compositional difference that you would feel in your clothes, even if the scale isn't moving. So that might be another way to track. So rather than just tracking the scale, you can track the way certain clothes fit, put on the same pair of pants, the same shirt every month. You can also take photos every month, see if you can see a visual difference. You can also do DEXA scans. That's a scan you can get done for probably like $100, $150. You can do that every 3 months, and that'll do a body composition, like how much fat versus muscle you have, and they're very accurate, 1% to 2% accuracy. And if you live near any major city, there's probably availability for that. Just Google DEXA scan near me. So there's a couple methods you can use to try to track your progress. That way, it's not just on the scale. But if you're seeing any progress at all, then I would say, you're making a difference, clearly. Just keep stringing that together more and more time. And then if you're not seeing any progress, I'll double check all your numbers and make sure everything's correct. So that way you can actually push to make a change. There you go. I don't know if that was probably maybe not as inspirational as you might have wanted. Maybe a little more factual, but those are the facts. Next question. This is now business questions. We have 2 of them today. If you could only give one piece of advice to a coach, what would it be? Oh, that's a really hard question because now my brain just flushed with a million things. One piece of advice to a coach, what would it be? I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna give you 2. I'm a cheater. The first one is the golden rule of life. Treat others how you'd want to be treated. So coach others how you would want to be coached. Give them the full effort that you would want to be given. Give them the honesty, but also the love and the support that you would want to be given. Treat them how you would want a coach to treat you. That is probably going to be really good business advice and long-term client retention, client happiness, client referrals, business growth. If you apply that golden rule, do unto others as you have done unto you, that's probably going to be a really good approach to business. The second one that I'm going to cheat is to a piece of advice for coaches: treat yourself like your first client. Do not sacrifice your goals. Do not sacrifice your nutrition, your training, your sleep. Treat yourself like a walking billboard. You are what you know. And I really made that mistake over the years, especially when I was younger. And if there's something I could adjust, that would be what I would adjust. Is I would have treated myself more like my first client. I wouldn't have sacrificed so much of myself at the beginning of my career. Now, it's worked out well. I get to do this full time. This is my only job, and I make a good living doing it, and I'm very grateful and very blessed. But if I could adjust it a little bit, I would have given myself a little more attention at the beginning of my career. So those are the two pieces of advice: is doing others as you'd have done unto you. The second piece of advice is you are your first client. So treat yourself like a client. Like, make a plan for nutrition and follow the damn plan. Check in on yourself and make adjustments. Do everything you would normally do for a client. You're going to learn so much. You're going to be motivated. You're going to be excited. You're going to share everything you're learning with your people. It's going to grow your business because you're going to be just so excited with everybody you communicate with. And then anything you achieve, you get to kind of blast that out on social media. That becomes your social marketing. That becomes your proof of what you know. So those are the two pieces of advice. I cheated. There's two pieces of advice. Cool. Last question we have is, when would you decide to transfer from a normal job to being a full-time trainer? Okay. Well, so I'm assuming, no assumption. If you have a normal job and you want to be a trainer, start training people while working your normal job. So you're going to want to do that as a part-time thing, and then maximize and grow that until you're going completely insane, working 70 hours a week between the two jobs. If you're working to maximal capacity, and I mean a minimum 60 hours a week, it should be probably more than that. You should be spending 20 to 30 hours a week as a trainer outside of your normal job. In the 20 to 30 hours a week, you're going to then start to realize, how much money am I making? What's the growth potential here? You're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way. You're actually going to learn whether you actually want to do it or not full time. I would develop the business and run it as like a side hustle, but don't treat it like a side hustle. Treat it like what you really want to do. But do that for 20 to 30 hours a week and really learn from that. See what the financial potential is. And then if it looks like, okay, I've reached what I can maximally do in the 20 to 30 hours I can give while having this job, and it looks like if I were to remove this job, there's clear evidence that I could continue to develop. So then you might want to make that change. If you're with a partner in life and you both are financially responsible to each other, make sure they're part of the decision. Make sure that you're making enough money. Maybe you have to step back a little bit for a couple months, 6 months, and then hopefully the transition you'll build up out of that. But that would be the general recommendation: is if you have a normal job and you want to be a trainer, start being a trainer. Do it for 20 to 30 hours a week till you're freaking pulling your hair out and and you're maximizing the capacity of what you can do. You'll have learned a lot, developed a lot, and then you can decide if that's the right time to then make that switch to doing personal training as a full-time career. Cool. Okay, so those were the questions for this week. I really like those questions, so thank you to everybody who sent them in. And again, if you would like to be able to submit questions, just join our Patreon service. You can go to patreon.com/C3 method. The 3 spelled out, CHTREE method. And then you also get access to training programs, the nutrition education, training templates as well, and then access to me. You can ask me any questions you want all the time. So the questions I cover in the weekly Q&A are not all the questions I get. They're the ones that I believe would translate well to a format such as this. I answer a lot of questions one-on-one, and I'm happy to do that, and that's part of the benefit of the service. So if you want to have access to a trainer, nutritionist, business coach, whatever the heck you want to call me, if you want to have access to me, the Patreon service is a great way to do that. Awesome. Okay, if you have any questions, if you need anything, reach out through the service. You can also reach out on our website, c3method.com, or email c3method@gmail.com. If you like these Q&A videos, make sure you tell people about them. Make sure you share and just let people know that they can listen to these, learn from these, and maybe even join Patreon and benefit from the service option as well. Okay, that's everything. So, as always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching.